headed to the near sideline, one man to beat, makes the move at midfield, coming to the near side at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, 5, touchdown, Kentucky!
And we didn't hear enough touchdown Kentucky's from Tom Leach today. Another episode of Believe in Kentucky, a carnage episode of Believe in Kentucky with Aaron Gershon live at the scene of crime as Kentucky was dismantled.
Yeah. Walking back to the car, the line I've been saying really ever since the third quarter and all night is, I've been on this.
Oh, you still there, man? You got muted.
Play, hell, you name it. But that was the worst. We have some music playing. Is that on our end?
Okay. Yeah, you was muted for a second, but I got you now.
That's okay. But hold on. I keep hearing Jalen Whitlow's touchdown call.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, my bad. That's
okay. I see. Sorry, we got technical difficulties on a rough night. That's okay.
Absolutely. I swear I turned it off. I did turn it off. I ended that audio. But yeah, we are in the process of coming to y'all with a reactionary episode.
Yeah, we're just trying to get Jalen Whitlow's touchdown call. What happened there?
Oh, maybe if I play it, it'll stop for you. But I don't know. Okay.
Is it on mine?
I don't hear it. I don't.
Well.
Is it still playing? It's still just.
It's still playing.
It's like
this is perfect.
Back to the right.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So that sums up the night of what it's been. That's okay. Don't feel bad. But yeah, Vinny. I mean, that was probably. I was saying there. This is the worst performance I've covered from this program. You're talking 11 penalties. You're talking a pick six. We've seen Kentucky literally have to play wide receivers at quarterback because they were so inefficient in the pass game. And this was worse because they couldn't get any throws off. 3 completions for Brock Vandegrift, 10 attempts, 30 yards. I mean, there's literally, outside of a good performance from Demie Sumo-Karngbaye, Mark Stoops could literally name nothing positive that happened from this game because there was nothing. I mean, Kentucky just looked ill-prepared. They looked checked out. As soon as South Carolina, made it a 10-point game, the defense kind of just, no one said it, but it felt like they quit. But I'm not going to blame the defense first. I mean, the offensive line was atrocious. Everything, even the special teams were bad in this game. There was literally no positives to come from this. And look, it's a game we spent all off season talking up. Like, they can't lose that week 2 game to South Carolina. They're a better team than South Carolina on paper. South Carolina, the only 3 wins that Shane Beamer has had on the road in the SEC in his tenure, 2 of them are here at Kroger Field and one's in Nashville against Vanderbilt. I mean, there was no reason for that to happen today, just like there was no reason to lose to them down there last year and no reason to lose to them at home this year. So just all systems fail here. The worst loss I've covered in my 6 years on the beat.
Yeah, man. Just it's like they know. They like you said it. The defense knew when they got the 10 when 10 points on the board. It's like they can't. This offense can't do that. They can't. Not today.
No,
they can't score twice today.
No.
And South Carolina, we talked about last week. South Carolina didn't earn anything. South Carolina gave them a little hope at the end of the first half, and that was the only, with the interception that led to the second field goal. You go down 10-6 at halftime, and you think, okay, come out and maybe you can get back in the game, and of course that didn't even happen.
Yeah, I thought, that's what's crazy about it, right? They had their opportunities to get back in this game and seize control of it. I mean, end the first half, their only good drive of the day, which, it was a good drive, but they couldn't throw the ball. They ran the ball 11 straight plays, all either Demie Sumo-Karngbaye or Jason Patterson. They get down inside the 20-yard line, and the drive stalls there. You settle for 3. Then you get the ball at the South Carolina 27 after Ty Bryant grabs an interception. You're thinking, okay, here we go. Touchdown here, and you're up. I guess you'd be tied going into halftime. It's a whole new game. You're starting over. They go 3 and out, settle for 3. It's 10-6 at the half. But then, they come out at halftime. The defense, 2 strip sacks in a row. Unfortunately, couldn't fall on one of them. Force a quick 3 and out. What does the offense do? They go backwards. And then from there, where they lost the game, the biggest drive of the game for the defense, where, the biggest gripe you'll have on them all day, they get to 4th and 1. Octavius Oxendine, who is a 5th-year senior, hard count, falls for it. That extends the drive. And then 2 plays later, you get them backed up to 3rd and 14. And what happens? Same thing as last year. Big conversion. And, the next play, wide open touchdown for the tight end in the end zone, and the game fell over from there.
Yeah, just unbelievable. You mentioned it. DSK was the only bright spot, and he
Literally.
probably should have got the ball more early on when the game was still wasn't out of hand. He probably should have got more touches.
Yeah, you could definitely argue that as well. There were some really questionable play calls in this game. The first, and I think this one was probably on Brock Vandegrift, but the first one that stands out to me was, I believe it was 2nd and 1 after Demie Sumo-Karngbaye had a 9-yard run on 1st down. I forget what the score was at that point. It's 2nd and short. Let's keep the drive going.
And he
jet sweep and probably with RPO. And Brock Vandegrift simply didn't read it well, hands it off to Marion Brown. The defense for South Carolina was waiting for it. They crushed Brown behind the line of scrimmage, lost to 8, and then the next play is a 2-yard pass, a little check down that goes nowhere. So, Kentucky ends up having to punt and couldn't seize momentum, with 2nd and 1, and I believe that ensuing drive, South Carolina scored to go up 7-zip. So, play calling, not great. Bush handed, not a great game. Mark Stevenson thought one of the worst 4th down decisions I can remember from him, because I'm usually on the same page with his 4th down decisions. I'm very much, conservative to a point on 4th down, especially when you're in your own territory or at midfield, unless it's, you need it to get back in the game. There's a chance to put the other team away. I'm a pretty conservative guy when it comes to 4th down. But in this case, it's the most obvious don't go for it. I mean, your defense at that point in the game was playing lights out. South Carolina can't do anything. They have a backup quarterback in at the time because Lenore Sellers was banged up. He missed a couple drives. Robbie Ashford can't do anything with through the air. He's completely reliant on running the ball. And, Kentucky, 4th and 1 at their own 32, decides to go for it and trust an offensive line that couldn't get any push all game. And predictably, they get no push, and it's a turnover and downs, and that led to 3 free points for South Carolina. So just some questionable coaching all the way around.
That's it. Yeah. We talked about it with Jalen when he was on. We just want to see the baby. We just want to see the offense. We just want to see what we have. And, to kind of looking ill prepared, you got some dogs on the edge for South Carolina. There was one time, I think it was Kennard. He went through 3 guys. He was double teamed and got chipped and still, got in there and got some pressure. Just ridiculous, man. It's like you knew what their strengths were, and they were still kind of overwhelmed once the game started.
Yeah, Brock, you probably just he said after the game, he said all the right things, putting the blame on himself, but when they're not able to get any protection for him, whether the chip blocks weren't working, whether you could tell he was uncomfortable back there. And who wouldn't be with that pocket? And to make matters worse, we've talked about it kind of all summer, where the offensive line, you felt pretty good about the starting five, and then after that you had some concerns, especially with Cortland Ford, injured and seemingly could be out for this whole season. You don't really have a swing tackle. And Gerald Mincy goes down in the first half. He came back, luckily. Jagger Burton gets hurt. He's probably going to be out next week. That means they're starting Dylan Ray. It's just the offensive line was atrocious. It was actually I thought, and again, Southern Miss, we talked about it. We don't really know exactly how good they are. They're struggling with Southeastern Louisiana as we record this, so Southern Miss might actually just suck. And last week you can't really read too much into. But I thought the offensive line, outside of a couple plays, more so in the run game, really held up and did a good job last week. But this week it was the complete and utter opposite. Just terrible. One of the worst. With all the bad offensive line play there was in 22, obviously subpar, a little better last year, but subpar. This was probably the worst offensive line performance I can think of in an individual game, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah. Because we're streaming on the Believe Network, YouTube, Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us, subscribe, leave a comment. We definitely appreciate it. Got a comment from Golden Gameplay. It's a good question, Aaron, because we did our predictions. We said 8-4 a few weeks ago, and Golden Gameplay says, "Good evening, guys. Just wondering what you think our record will be this year, because you kind of change your outlook as of now."
Yeah, it has to. It has to, unfortunately. Again, this was the game. This was the big game that's going to either give you momentum or doom you, in my opinion. I've been saying it all summer, and it doomed you, I think. And obviously, I think we all know next week it's not going to go well. Hopefully they play better and can fight, but I actually do think they'll fight. I just don't think they're going to win, and it won't be particularly close. I just think you'll see more effort from this team, because I don't know how you can't get more effort. Ole Miss, that game, Tennessee and Texas probably all washes. That's 5 losses right there. And then you look at your other games. Florida didn't look good against Miami. I haven't gotten to check in on their game tonight, but that game's going to be down there. We'll see what their situation is. Probably still a toss-up game at this point in time. Auburn lost to Cal today at home. Their team has been very low on throughout the offseason, so still have some optimism you could win that one at home. And then, you know what? Vandy doesn't look like a surefire win with the way they played against Virginia Tech and having real quarterback play from Diego Pavea, who was an all-conference performer in their conference. And, they bring in Jerry Kill, who did an amazing job as the head coach over at NMSU. And, all of a sudden they're looking a lot better, and they always come to Kroger Field and play well. So I still think this team can get to 6, but that's being optimistic, man. I could see them going as low as 3-9 and as high as probably 6-6.
Yeah, and because we've lost to worse Vandy teams, and this one looks like it is right now.
Yeah. I do think this. Look, I think South Carolina defensively, we probably didn't give them enough credit on Wednesday's show. The two edge rushers, Kennard and Dylan Stewart, were absolutely as advertised. They played a great game. They're a very experienced unit. Seniors up and down the front 7 and several in the secondary, and they played lights out defensively. You got to give them their flowers as much as you want to hate on what UK did, and they deserve a lot of bashing, a lot of criticism, but you got to give South Carolina their flowers as well. So, yeah, we probably underestimated that, but I think we fairly assessed South Carolina's offense. They gave Kentucky every chance to get back in that game, and the only plays they really hit on in this game, were wide open and Kentucky breakdowns. Sellers didn't do anything special in this game. He managed and made the plays he had to. They held Rocket Sanders in check for most of the night. They only gave up 2.8 yards per carry. I know sacks are included in that, but I think you take those out, it's probably still in the 3s. So, the run defense, the defensive line wreaked havoc like we thought they would. They got home a couple times. Defensively, for the most part, outside of a couple plays here and there, they didn't have to win the game. But so South Carolina was as bad offensively. I think they're a worse offensive football team than when Kentucky lost to Vandy in 2022. And, they had a decent wide receiving core. Mike Wright was playing really good football at the time. And then, of course, Ray Davis, who we all know how good he was for Kentucky last year, had a great game that night for Vandy. So I think this is probably from a talent perspective, probably the worst offense Mark Stoops has lost to in his tenure here. But defense, you definitely got to give South Carolina credit. They were much better than I think a lot of people gave them credit for, and we'll see how they continue to defend as the rest of the season goes on here.
And I try to stay even keeled. I try not to, try to stay in the middle. But saying what you said about, their offense, and yet we still saw, they didn't give up a lot, but we still saw guys running free, wide open on some of these breakdowns.
Sure.
That concerns me when we do play better offenses. I mean,
yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, I thought the safeties were really bad today, and I know Bryant had a pick, but that was kind of just a terrible ball, and Ty was in the right place at the right time. But yeah, safeties, there were a lot of breakdowns, and again, I mean, we're talking about those three. I mean, we're talking about three wide open plays where they pretty much were uncovered. It was the first touchdown to, I believe, the freshman Bennett. It was the touchdown to the tight end Simon, and the play before that, the 33-yard pickup on 4th and 14 to the same kid, or 3rd and 14 to Bennett. So yeah, that was super concerning. I mean, look, I think the running backs. I think the biggest concerns, like before week 1, were the secondary and the running backs. I think the running backs have done their job. I think they've probably far exceeded expectations. The offensive line actually has been the issue there, and has definitely not exceeded expectations. They've failed to come close to meeting them. But the secondary, we were worried about it going into the year, and you know what? It was a really bad performance in this one, and there were some plays in that Southern Miss game that weren't so pretty either. I think the safeties, last year you can blame some of it on injuries. Jordan Levitt missed time. Zion Childress played banged up all year. Jalen Geiger missed most of the season, and when I talked to Brad White for our one-on-one for the Cats Paws yearbook, he kind of corrected me when I said the safeties probably didn't have the year they wanted, but I felt pretty accurate in my assessment, and they just weren't very good today, and they haven't been good so far this year after they were bad last year.
Yeah. So I saw where Stoop said that he kind of pressed on the 4th and 1, and look, this is
he did.
That was a flashback to Hal Mummy. We saw that all the time with the Hal Mummy, the air raid. He was going for it on his side of the field all the time, and he had a lot inferior. The defense was way inferior to what they have today, and he was always put them in a bind, and that's what it reminded me of today. I was like, wow, this is Hal Mummy-ish. What else did he say? Nuggets that came out of his press conference.
Yeah, I thought it was telling. I think I might have said it there in the open, but he was asked if there was anything to build on. He said, no, that's what's crazy about this. So that was a bad one. He said his opening line, he kind of talked about how, he sat in the same chair last week, was like, I've never really been a part of anything like this before. And he said the same is true this week where, the team got beat really, really badly. And most of the time when they get beat badly, and I think he's actually accurate on this, they show some fight and they punch back and they at least, do some good things toward the end of the game. I mean, the Alabama game last year stands out to me where, they got their ass kicked. Alabama was the better team, no doubt, but, Ramon Jefferson had a long run. They recovered a punt that's, a muffed punt. They still were able to go and do some good things, whereas in this contest, there was not much of that. So those were kind of the things that stuck it out to me from the press conference.
Corey Price, everybody know the UK statistician extraordinaire. He's up in the box with Tom Leach, Jeff Picoro now. He tweeted out after the game that Kentucky's 2-8 in their last 10 SEC home games, their worst record in a stretch of 10 SEC home games since November of 2012 to September 2015. So that's the very end of Joker Phillips and the very infancy, beginning stages of Mark Stoops. So that is, it's just, you can't sugarcoat that, man. That's rough. They get you muted again.
Sorry about that. It's one of those nights. But look, the swing games have been kind of what's killed Kentucky the last 3 years. I think it started same South Carolina team where it was only a swing game, honestly, because Will Levis was hurt and the offensive line was so bad. Otherwise, you look up and down the rosters, Kentucky was better, and it was before South Carolina kind of hit their stride that year, and, they went on to beat Tennessee and Clemson. Then later that year, they lose to Vandy. That's not even a swing game. That's just an upset loss at home. Last season, you lose to Missouri, where, Missouri ended up having a great year. We all know that. But at the time, they were coming off a loss to LSU where the defense, I think, gave up 49 points. None of us knew, at that, and I think, Kentucky had won 5 of 6, 6 of 7 against Missouri.
Yeah.
So you didn't really even think of that as, you thought of it as a swing game for sure, but you didn't think of it as a game that they were definitely going to go in and lose. They lose. And then, later in the year, I'm trying to think, the other swing game was on the road at South Carolina, but I really think it comes down to, taking care of your business at home, and they haven't done it, man.
Yeah. And now, the SEC, man, is cutthroat. You're fighting for position. You're fighting to try to work your way up. You know who the top tier teams are, but everybody else is fighting and trying to get to that spot. And now teams that you had, you had them by the throat. You had South Carolina by the throat. You had Missouri by the throat. You had passed them. You had worked you past Florida. And now you've lost your grip on Missouri and South Carolina. That's 3 in a row to Shane Beamer. You can't, it's not even fluky anymore.
And all since you took again, I think the jury's still out if that was really a shot at Shane Beamer or not. I truthfully, actually, from what I've heard behind the scenes, I'm not sure if Stoops was directly going at Beamer with that, to be honest with you. But, 3 in a row since, those comments and that whole thing went down, and all just embarrassing. And again, you got to give Carolina's defense their flowers tonight, no doubt about it. But you look up and down the rosters, especially with what Kentucky, was able to bring in through the portal this offseason, and you just feel like that should have been a win, especially on your home turf. And I feel really bad for the fans. And, I think that was a failure on Mark Stoops' part tonight not to acknowledge them in the post-game press conference. Hopefully he'll, make up for that when he talks to us on Monday. But it was electric in there early, completely sold out. It was a perfect weather day after all the disastrous weather here a week ago. The tailgate scene, I went and saw some buddies out tailgating before the game. Walked probably a mile and a half combined. I never broke a sweat. And the fans were out in full force, man. And they got let down, and they started emptying out late in the third quarter, and I can't blame a single one of them. So just a shameful thing to happen at home and against a team where they've become a pretty big rival. They talk their talk and they walk the walk, and you talk your talk when you play them too, and you're not walking the walk. So just brutal all the way around. And again, failing to look, South Carolina, I don't think is ever going to become a premier program. I still don't think the Shane Beamer thing is going to work out long term. They've obviously passed Kentucky at this point. There's no doubt about that. But another year where you catch a team while they're down before maybe they go on an upward swing, and you can't take advantage of it. So just unacceptable results, and it's really back to the drawing board. I mean, look, you're probably, unless there's a miracle, you're going to be sitting 1-2 going into the Ohio game. You're going to be hopefully 2-2, assuming you take care of that one, and then probably 2-3, and then there's so many things that this win would have opened up a lot of doors if they were able to get it. It would have definitely kept, our predictions of 8-4. I think they definitely, that could have been attainable, especially with how Florida and Auburn have looked early this season. The table would have been set to have just a solid bounce back year after 2 years in a row of mediocrity. And now it just feels like you might slip below mediocrity, and the tough questions are going to be asked. Look, Mark Stoops is making a crap ton of money. I don't think he's getting fired for what he's done for this program and for the money that's there. It would be up to him to leave at his own peril, whether that be similar to John Calipari, where he gets another job, or he decides to hang it up, which could be possible given the health history and his family. Hanging it up at 70 or at 56 is feasible, but there's going to be fans wanting change and comparing this to the end of Cal, and I was holding back on that because I think there's a different set of expectations that there should be for Kentucky basketball and Kentucky football, and I still believe in that. But if you're gonna have 2 mediocre years and follow that up with a bad year, those questions become more and more relevant and more and more okay to ask, and I think fair.
Absolutely. And to me, it doesn't matter how he intended the stupid sunglasses comment to be taken. Shane Beamer took it as a shot at him because he said in the video.
Yeah, he's run with it and succeeded.
Yeah. So you fueled his fire. He took it as fuel, whatever. We've seen athletes take perceived or slights, whatever, use it as motivation. He clearly has. Got a cool comment from Henry Porter. And before we wrap it up right quick, he's kind of saying what you just said, Aaron. He said, let's be honest. So appreciative of the 10-win season. We have taken advantage of non-conference cupcakes on the bottom tier of the SEC, not been very competitive against the upper big boys. Appreciative again of the highs being ranked and the Citrus Bowls. But with the SEC getting tougher, afraid Kentucky will be toward the bottom of the SEC. Maybe they can turn it around. Just didn't see much today. So, yes, you can't disagree with any of that, man.
Absolutely can't disagree with any of that. I think it's very similar. Again, I think we're getting toward us. I hope it doesn't get there completely. I think it's trending to where it's being, it's getting similar to the end of the Cal era where the fans were just done with it. It just ran its course. And look, that ultimately that happens in just about every single coaching situation. There are very few coaches that get to go out on top. Like, I guess Joe Harbaugh did, right? Where, he leads the national champion, whatever. I guess a better example is where Nick Saban, right? Where they last season, they had their struggles for sure, and they're still able to make the most of the year and get to the playoff and play the defending national champions very competitively, go to overtime. Like, there's very few coaches that get to go away on their terms and very successful. Tony La Russa in St. Louis, at least. I'm just trying to think of ones that come off the top of my head. I mean, even Bill Belichick, man, it ended with a 4-12, so or 4-13, whatever. So, very few coaches get to go out the way they envision. It didn't happen for John Calipari. Didn't happen for Tubby Smith on the basketball side here. But on the football side, it really hasn't happened for any coach off the top of my head. Maybe Bear Bryant because he left on his own terms. But it does feel like, and look, there's 10 games left. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe they'll win some games. Maybe this is a loss we didn't expect, and they win some games we don't expect. That's still possible. But it just feels like if they don't turn this around and at least get to 8 wins, which I don't think is going to happen at this point, the fan base is going to be ready for change. And I guess I'll end with this. There's a coach down there that's a former Kentucky Wildcat who we thought would be the head coach for a little bit on a Saturday night in November last year, and John Summerall, who did a hell of a job at Troy, and I'm pretty sure he just led Tulane to a ranked win today. Am I correct in that Tulane won that game over K-State?
They were last time I was looking.
I didn't see the final.
A better showing today, win or lose, than we had. Even if he lost, he still had a better showing than we did.
For sure. And John Summerall is going to be a hot name that is not going to be on the market for as long as he wants. I mean, Mississippi State interviewed him this past cycle, and that obviously would have been probably a job he would have took if he had gotten it. So, look, fans are going to be looking at that. Fans are going to be looking at every avenue for change, just like they were with John Calipari, and it's getting into a dangerous territory. The only good news is they have 10 games left to prove us wrong.
They got beat 34-27, but still a much better showing than we had. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So my bad on that, but yeah, they did. They hung tough with a ranked team, and that's
he's in year one. He's in year one.
Yeah, he's in year one. Yeah. So, and that's against a top 17 team that I believe won the Big 12 championship 2 years ago, and we're a bowl champion last year. I think won 9 games. So, the calls are just going to get louder and louder, and you can't blame the fans for that.
Yeah, and the wins over Louisville have been great. We still, Rich Brooks had signature win. You beat number 1 LSU in the year they go on to win a national championship. We still haven't really got that in 12 years on the Stoops, and I like him and I appreciate everything he's done.
Sure.
As far as the SEC top tier punching up and, upsetting somebody. We still haven't really got that. The wins over Louisville, like I said, are great. The Citrus Bowl is great, like Henry said. But, you've been close with Georgia sometimes. Last year, not. But weren't able to, pluck one of those and get you a signature.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'd say maybe the game over Lamar, right?
Yeah.
When they were number 11. And but other than that, I'm trying to think. They beat Florida. They were number 12, but we all knew that Florida team wasn't really the 12th best team in the country in 22. I can't even. I'm trying to think of other ranked wins. I know Florida, when they won in 2018, they were number 25. I know that team went on to have a good season, but still. So, you're right. I'd say the Louisville game in 2016 is probably the closest thing to it. But as far as that goes, there's been some great wins. Don't get me wrong, but they are lacking that signature SEC win for sure.
Yeah.
And
so, man,
but that's the thing. Today wouldn't have even been that. Today would have been taking care of business, and they couldn't do it.
Which is what we said. If you do what you're supposed to do, you can go 8-4. And this was a do what you're supposed to do game, and
no doubt about it.
Got beat by 3 touchdowns.
Got
4
beat
touchdowns.
to a damn pulp. Got beat to a damn pulp.
Yeah. So we pick up the pieces. We see what comes out of the interviews and practice next week, Aaron, and we'll be back Wednesday. Looking forward to the dogs coming to town. Woo-hoo.
Great. Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, it's gonna be a culture test for this team. We'll say that.
Yeah. Man, appreciate you. I hate you had to sit up in the press box for that, but whew.
Hey, it's part of the job. It's part of the job.
Absolutely. But we'll hop on over here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. It's been another episode of Believe in Kentucky. Check out Aaron Gershon's stuff on the Cat's Paws. He had a story ready to roll with a minute left in the fourth quarter. South Carolina was still taking a knee.
Yeah,
Aaron had a story.
It was over. It was over.
Well, man, get in and enjoy what's left of your evening, and we'll holler at you later on in the week, man.
We'll regroup on Wednesday.
Absolutely. For Aaron Gershon, this is Vinny Hardy. Been another episode of Believe in Kentucky on the Believe Podcast Network. We'll see y'all in a few days.